Massive welcome, everyone, to this live masterclass, How to Build Camera Confidence and Unleash Your Authentic Voice with Eric Presnall. So I'm really, really pumped for this because I am someone, and you'll hear my story throughout this as well, who used to hate having my photo taken. I couldn't even imagine creating videos and being on camera back maybe 10 years ago when we started this, or just before we started this, through to now having the ability to go and speak on stage. My first ever speaking gig was in a room full of 700 people, and I was totally freaking out. But all of this stuff is a learned skill. And that's what I want to encourage here today is that it's like when we're babies and we're trying to start to walk, right? That we don't go, oh, you know what? I guess I'm not a walker. I'm just a crawler, right? That's people don't do that. This is a learned skill that we can learn, and that's what I want to help you with today. And that's why we brought Eric on. He's a good friend of ours, and this is what he does as a profession. He is a professional presenter. He's worked with a lot of people. He has a company around helping people create videos as well. He's a video producer as well. So I'm really pumped to bring him on. Really quickly, some housekeeping or how this will go forward. This is an interactive session. So if you've got your questions, we will be diving into them. If I see them throughout and they're related to what we're covering in that moment, then we'll jump into them. If not, there's dedicated time for Q&A at the end. But the way I see this is I'm going to hang out with Eric for the first 15, 20 minutes, pick his brain a little bit, but I want to allow or set the foundation here for the Q&A. So there is definitely Q&A, and I want you leaving here not just with more stuff, but with actionable stuff that you can go and put into action to change the way that you're creating your content. Again, this is a learned skill. I wish I learned this much earlier. I am still by no means perfect at all, but this is something that the more we push our comfort zones, the more we do, the better we get, the more comfortable we are. I mean, there's still a piece of me that would freak out if 10 years ago, if I was like, hey, you're going to run a live stream and you're going to bring in a guest and interview and hang out live. I couldn't even imagine that. So again, it's a learned skill, and I want to help you get through that learning barrier as fast as possible. That's really what's at the crux of this. So let's bring the man of the hour on this one. Click the right button. Eric, great to have you.
Hey, everyone. How's it going? Good. Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Awesome. So let's give us a really quick backstory, because I know that you've just shared with me that you used to have a fear of being on camera as well. So where did this journey start for you? How did you end up here?
Oh, probably birth. I don't know. It was the crawl and walk.
Well, let's not go back that far. Well, okay. Yeah.
I was like, how far back are we going? Yeah. Oh my goodness. I kind of grew up doing theater and acting, and just kind of I had a really energetic personality. So I was naturally kind of into the stage and presenting and performing, but I think it probably got into like when I was starting to make it a real thing and kind of put myself out there, then I was like, oh, I want to make sure this is good. I want to make sure that, this is that mentality. So honestly, as a background as an actor, kind of doing this for about 25 years, I was probably primed to put pressure on myself to, be good in front of not just in front of the camera, just in front of stage and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, it's kind of been a massively, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's been an evolving thing over a long time.
So there's a lot of big fears that come up for people. I know that you've experienced them as well. I've experienced them as well. But to help people get past this, and this is what's at the crux of this session here today. An embarrassing story for me when we first started out. I was a behind the camera person, and I'm like, you know what? Let's just try a live stream. I went into it with zero prep, zero thought. No one showed up. And that just freaked me out. I was like, well, what am I doing if no one's got any questions? And I just made it like there was tech issues and just hit cancel live and got the hell out of there. This kind of stuff, you've gone through some things like that as well, just to kind of set this stage?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that would probably stand out as like a core memory for you, because that pressure of like, oh my gosh, I'm not good enough, or I'm worried about what people think, or you got this perfectionist mentality, which I'm going to raise my hand because I was definitely that person and still working on it. Like I still struggle. That's the thing, is like, I'm a presenter, but when it comes to live stuff, I'm like, Like it's
He's
tough
good.
stuff,
I
you
can
know?
just remove you now. It's fine. We're
Perfect.
not
Yeah.
really live. This is
Good, good, good.
AI chat. Yeah.
This is an AI avatar actually, which we can get
Right.
into
Yeah.
later
Oh,
on.
even better.
Yeah, so I can definitely relate to that. It's an evolving thing, and for me personally, it's kind of getting into the point where you're you're trying to develop this whole persona. You're trying to, for me personally, it's being on camera on behalf of businesses, and so there's a real kind of matching of the tone or style or whatever these businesses want to address that you like. I don't want to mess this up, but at the same time, you're like, no, if I just relax, if I just actually have a conversation and be a human, then the conversions happen a lot better because we're all human, you know. I'm you know what I mean? Like you can have some fun with the content that you're in. You can utilize your space around you. You can poke fun. I've got a water here that's empty. I don't know. Like you're a real person, and I think that's the best part for when it comes to
Oh,
delivering on camera.
you, yours is water. This is tequila. I mean, it's 9 a.m. for
Okay,
me.
good.
So it's,
Good. They do it differently up there in Queensland, don't they?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So you're American living in Australia, or you're Canadian?
Yep.
You're not Canadian.
American,
American.
American.
Yeah, yeah. Right. There you go. So, next week you'll be onto the tequila first thing in the morning piece.
Yeah.
So,
I married an
so
Aussie, and she told me about this, but I haven't quite done it
no,
yet.
no, I couldn't even imagine. I think they're all myths. So
Yep.
let's fast forward to now, and with what you've seen, what's possible now. So for someone watching this that's still freaking out about being on camera,
Yep.
what kind of things does this unlock for you? Like where does this flow? Because it's not just YouTube content, right? This has probably given you confidence in other areas, which is where I think this is so important.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's pretty amazing to see like where video content is leaning to, because as a society, as you know, kind of I've kind of a background in psychology, so I love all the consumer statistics, kind of everything that which our society takes in information, and video content is by far becoming the best medium. Usually between about 85% of people prefer video content over the text format. That's why, when you go to a blog, they have the video embedded at the top. So a lot of what we do for not just education but entertainment as well is really pivotal. So if you can get behind, being comfortable on camera and speaking to people in a way, essentially at the end of the day, it's just effective communication. And that effective communication carries on to anything that you have, whether it's webinars or, as you said, live speaking, just having conversations at a barbecue. It really is just helping you become more comfortable with speaking to other people. And I kind of need to caution myself here, because we had a very closed off world at around 2020 where everybody internalized, and we're fearful to be out and to speak with people, and that kind of repercussions have, it's been a struggle to get back to that. But at the same time, video shot up because this is how we communicated during that time. So there's a real, I guess, acceptance to kind of emphasizing these video communication skills. And by far, like, hopefully that will extend into your, just kind of your greater world.
I know for me, if I was in a group of people, like again, speaking one-on-one was never a problem for me.
Yeah.
The moment it became a group and someone had to stand up and present, the worst fear of mine was that I got picked and had to share something. And I would be like bright red, sweating. Like it was the worst thing. I know that a lot of people say that public speaking is one of the worst fears. Some people fear that more than death, which is
correct.
Crazy. Right.
Yeah.
When we really think about it. And I think there's some great stuff that we're about to get into here that are going to help you push past that. Because again, you push past that, what's possible? I never would have thought that I'd be speaking on stages, doing live streams and things. Now making videos much easier than I ever thought. And getting to hang out and do stuff like this. But even the conversation stuff, I now have no problem sparking up a conversation in front of a group of people. But there's a few little reframes and things that I had to do, which I know we're gonna dive into here, that now have just made it so much easier. But I think the biggest thing I had to let go of first was the bad experience that I had, and we've all probably got one. I'm sure you've got one too. maybe in childhood or early on through schooling, college, whatever, where you maybe had to get up in front of a class and talk
Yes.
about something you weren't excited about,
Yep.
right? Or did not fully understand. They give you a topic, go speak on this, go debate this. It's
Yeah.
totally different. So we base our fears around not only, I don't want to look bad, I don't want to sound bad, I don't want to get this information wrong, but it's
Yep.
not the setting that we're putting ourselves into in real life,
Correct.
or on our YouTube channel. If we go to this extent, that was a big kind of thing that I had to let go, because I did have that experience multiple times through childhood where I'm presenting through school or whatever on something that I'm not excited about. Just
Yeah.
talking about stuff you're excited about, so much easier. And
Yeah.
stuff that you already
100%.
know, right?
And
So
what were some of
just
those fears though? What were some of those fears that you had, like when they said, "Okay, cool, Justin, hop on up, it's your turn." Like what was going through your head?
Well, it's not be like, was I paying attention? Probably not. So I'm going to mess this up. And I have no idea what we're actually talking about. So I'm put on the spot. I have a fear of talking to people and looking like an idiot, sounding like an idiot. No one wants to do that.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's no prep piece there as well. So if we start at that point, and you've all might have some sort of experience like that, and let's put that to the side, because we're going to dive into some techniques and things, but also how preparation can really help you as we go through this. And again, then we'll be opening up for Q&A. I can see there's a few questions coming through now, which is awesome.
Cool.
Hang out with the cool kids.
Hang out with the cool kids. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So you've got what do you do before you're getting on camera? Let's start here. Let's get people comfortable before they get on camera, and then we can get to some of the the deeper stuff here. Are there any like techniques?
Yep.
Breathing, posture. I hear about these things, and I'm sure others have as well. What's your process, and what would you recommend to someone?
Yeah, there's a lot of techniques when it comes to, kind of being comfortable on camera or comfortable in your space. And the beauty of what I do kind of like in this area, like this is my setup. This is kind of like I own this area. Whereas when you go to a live area, like a live speaking event, you have to mold yourself into this area, into like creating this safe space for you to present and all that. But for me, like I have, like when I'm setting up the lighting or my green screen, or I've got this, the desk here, my voiceover set, whatever it is, I play very loud music in my space. And it's all accustomed to getting me really excited about whatever the content coming up is. So I usually do batch recordings of like 3 to 5 scripts, technically, like depending on how long they are, and what I do is I just play loud music, man. I really kind of just own into the space. I'm bobbing. I'm putting my teleprompter scripts, in the teleprompter app and transferring it over. I'm like, okay, cool. And then, it kind of just gives me this relaxing way where I'm like, okay, I'm ready to hop in it. And my energy's up, and it just makes me, kind of ready to go. There is breathing techniques that get into it. I haven't had to do that in quite a while, unless it's more of a live speech, because this is now my space. So that nervous breath work is very important when you're doing things that you're just very uncomfortable, especially starting up. But one thing that helps is also the smile technique, which is it's kind of like just smiling right before you go on camera for about 5 to 10 seconds. Just keep it smiling, and it actually does boost up your energy just purely from the fact that you're smiling. So it actually raises it up. One last thing
I
I'll
like
mention.
that. Yeah,
Sorry.
you go.
Oh, just one last thing is like the camera takes away a good like 10 to 20% of your energy anyways. I think you mentioned this before. So just trying to get that energy up so that you can deliver on camera. It's always better to go above and then to kind of pull yourself back down if need be. But usually the above is the best part.
I like this. So if you want a good laugh, go check out the early videos on our channel where I thought I totally nailed it, and I play it back, and the energy's just flat. But at the time, I'm like, yeah, this is good. I'm real. I'm authentic. But it was studying a lot of other people and seeing people in real life perform on camera that really changed it for me, because it's almost like you think of where you want it to get to. Like if we're told just ham it up a bit, give it a bit more energy, to the point where you might feel like you're yelling or you're over exaggerating on camera, that comes across perfect. It's
Yeah.
weird. So it definitely gets lost somewhere in there through the HDMI cords or whatever. There's energy lost. So
Yeah.
you want to kind of take it to and experiment with pushing past your comfort zone to where it's like, oh, this is going to sound terrible. I'm
Yeah.
gonna sound like I'm overexcited, but that's really the place. And I find now I talk more with my hands
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well too, which is a whole another engagement thing and trust thing, which we'll dive
Yep.
into a little later as well. But
Cool.
I really think the getting calm and the reframe for that for me is and it makes it easy for me to get calm is I just picture that I'm talking to a friend because it's
Yeah.
weird. If you're talking to a camera, it's just a red flashing light and there's no one else in the room. I'd rather
Yeah.
talk to a real person. So
Yes.
there's a couple of little things that you could do. Like we tell people to put a photo of their best friend or their ideal client near the camera. And as silly as that sounds, you're then just talking to one person.
Correct.
Also, that reframe of talking to one person instead of going, "Hey guys, let's talk to one person. In this video, I'm going to show you how you
Yeah.
can get this result." It's just these little things that actually works better for the viewer, but it actually puts
100%.
you in a place of, I'm only talking to one person. I'm
Yeah.
only sharing my thoughts and opinions. I could be
Yeah.
wrong. You don't have to agree. That was a big reframe for me too. So the breathing piece, it's not really something I do either, but I do take a few deep breaths while I'm making sure everything is all good. Same as you said, if I'm going to do it on stage,
Yep.
then
That's huge.
I'll probably take a few more big breaths. But remember, people are choosing to click your videos.
Correct.
So they want to be there. They want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
So
And
that's
I think a really good point there is the fact that we feel so much pressure about, am I okay? That imposter syndrome comes in where you're like, am I saying the right thing? Am I saying enough things? Am I coming across as validated? The cool thing about once you get to these, putting in the reps for video content is you start thinking about the value that you're bringing. You genuinely, if you can reframe your mind to just be like, I just want people to know about this one thing because this is exciting for me, or this is going to be beneficial to them. It's putting it out it's putting it out in the way that says, hey, you've clicked on this for a reason. I just want to give you as much value as possible. So less internalization is, again, it's easier said than done, but with practice, it does take time.
So I remember I was given some advice before that first speaking gig where I'm like, why did I accept this? What am I doing? This is not my thing. I was sweating buckets and no one wants to be on the stage all sweaty. So this guy, James Wedmore, a good friend and mentor of ours, he said, hey, if you're nervous, that's a good thing because it shows you that you care. But the nerves should go the moment you hit record or the moment you stand on stage, because you being nervous is not being disrespectful, but it's selfish because you're thinking about you and you're not thinking about the viewer or the audience member. So they're there to learn, to hear, to experience this. So that was something that was kind of a slap in the face moment that, oh, you being nervous is being selfish. But when you really think about that, it should allow you to get out of your own way. It allowed me to go, wow, okay, this is bigger than me and my fear of being on camera, fear of whatever. If I push past this, I can really help some people. I can add some value to the internet. And I think with that reframe, that might be enough for you to go, screw it, let's give it a go. Let's just try it. It's just my thoughts and opinions. People don't have to agree with me. They can make their own YouTube video if they want. Is that the kind of thing that you kind of needed as well, or you see?
I think that's spot on, because a lot of the books and a lot of the content that tells you it's saying, and this actually helped me as an actor. Did like Broadway shows, so I was performing in front of like 6,000 people in one night, and I'm getting on stage, and the whole books, they tell you like, just breathe into it, just accept that you're nervous, it's going to be okay, and you go, okay, all right, yeah, I am nervous. This is tough. This is hard. And it did make me feel better. But actually that point of view of like just the slap in the face, immediately I tense up and I go, oh man, well, but I am nervous, but I'm okay to feel this nervous. I'm okay to feel that. But it does make sense to be like, you know what? This is something that people want value from. So it's actually, a little bit selfish. That actually makes a lot of sense. I've never heard that.
And I think the piece, and we're already seeing some comments and stuff around this, and obviously the title of this was being authentic, finding your authentic voice. I think the piece that people want is to sound, they want to be them,
Yeah.
but we almost got to give them permission to fail. It's okay. Your first videos will be your worst ones. Those
Yeah.
kinds of things that, you don't need to be perfect on stage. As much as we all want to be perfect, if you saw someone on stage or on video that was perfect, are you really going to connect with them? Or are you like, oh, good, you're like me? We want to
You're a human.
be like and around people that are like us. So
Yeah,
leaving some of those mistakes in, making it raw, making it real, saying I don't know how many times I've said in this is probably a lot. It's still something I haven't learned to really remove
Likewise.
yet. But
Yeah.
that's where editing is for. That's the other side of it. Is
I was
that
just
we
going to bring
can
that up.
edit. Yeah.
So one technique that I love about presenting now, and I love this space that I've accustomed myself. And this might be helpful for you guys who bring on your own editor, or who kind of this. I use this lens as if it's my editor. So when I'm presenting, I'm actually speaking to my editor. Her name is Kate. She's a rock star. I love Kate. And I'll say, what I'll do is like, I'll frame myself and I'll be delivering. I'll be like, Kate, that was horrible. Let me try that again. And I just have fun with it because it allows me to kind of take a break, feel as if, like I'm speaking directly to Kate in this room. And Quentin Tarantino does this as well. He gets all his actors to like say hello to his main editor. I forgot her name, but like I'll position myself on the right. I'll be like, Kate, can you please put this here? Or let's cover up this spokesman sign because it's a horrible branding. Like I'll chat with her on the camera and look directly into the lens, and she loves it because she messaged me back. She'll be like, oh my gosh, that was so funny. Like, I can't believe you messed that up. Like I had a coughing fit one time, and it's just a really nice connection to use your editor who gets to know you over time. I love it.
Okay. So I didn't even realize that I was doing this until you really called this out. I do the same thing, and I'll make little jokes and stuff along the way. So I'm not talking to myself. I'm in a soundproof room, whatever. But I'm talking to our editor. Look, the hardest part for me is his name is Justin as well. So it's like, hey, Justin. It just feels weird saying your own name. But
you're like a crazy person in the next room, right?
He's really talking to himself. But look, we'll have jokes or whatever. I'm like, you know what? Screw it. Leave that bit in, or I'll also clap. So I'm leaving markers, like audio markers and things. So we shoot for the edit, and that's a whole nother conversation that we can get into as well. Maybe dive into in the Q&A on how we can structure the filming piece. But eye contact, you mentioned. Why is that so important? You say you're looking directly at the camera lens like I am now. Why is it so important? But it's also probably difficult for people to do, right, or to remember.
100%. Yeah, eye contact is super important because as we get to actually performing on camera, or kind of communicating using the lens, there's a reason why these teleprompters and apps exist. It's because they want to make it so clear that you are looking right into the camera and you're having a conversation and speaking to this person. So check out Primal videos, teleprompters. I crack up because we had a cool question coming in. I think it was Doug. Doug, you mentioned, about teleprompters. Check out the teleprompter because I've used Primal videos teleprompter. Every time I like search for something on YouTube, you guys are the first ones up there. And it's helpful.
We have you targeted. We're just like running ads. Yeah.
I'm getting ads from Justin's crazy
AI.
And so like using those teleprompters apps, I had to go through about probably 3 different types of teleprompters to get the one where you can't tell that because I would be reading across here and you can see my eyes kind of reading across, whereas I have to shorten it and test it out so that I'm just looking right in the center and you can barely see any movement. And now I'm getting to the point where I actually, and this is something we can get into in Q&A if people are interested. I have my laptop on the right, and there's also another option to put another teleprompter on the left. So what you're doing now is you're actually like going down to your notes and you're checking over here, and it becomes this really safe space where you're thinking about something, but you also have your notes on the left and right to help you. And I have to be cautious here because it's not meant to replace your script. It's meant to help you in your delivery. And it just makes it super easy. Now, I've definitely have just the one teleprompter now, but I do have my laptop, and it's always a safe space because I can check my notes. And with the content that we're doing, it makes sense because I'm trying to educate you. So I'm giving this live portion of it. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's the other piece of it too. People think that they need to just be looking at the
Yeah.
camera, and then they almost get like target fixation where they're like staring at it, and then it becomes freaky and people can't watch the videos either. You need
Yeah.
to remember, and I know that we had questions, I think it was from Doug, and we had a few others as well, like around how do we actually speak to a teleprompter? Do we need full script? Do we need bullet points? And we'll get to that one very soon. But I think
Yep.
the fact is that we still want to, it's a tool. It
Yep.
shouldn't be a crutch for you
Yep.
where you can only make videos with that there. And it definitely became that for me. I've been using teleprompters for years, and I've experimented with full scripts, all of that stuff. I'm still looking around. But the piece here, I do have a point somewhere in here, is to your point of having the different screens and looking around. What I needed to do when I first started doing webinars and live streams and things like this is I would just call it out and say, look, if you see me looking around, I didn't do it at the start of this session, but I normally do it. If you see me looking around, I got notes and stuff to keep this on track for you and to make sure that we don't miss anything. So I've let the viewers know that this is just a casual, safe space. I want to keep it to some sort of structure, but I've also given myself permission to, like, you'll see me looking around. I've got the chat here. I've got actually Eric's down here. I've got some notes up here, but I know that you guys are here. So this is where it just those little things and saying them out loud and letting your viewers know how the content's going to be delivered. It works for the viewer, but it's crazy how well it works for you. Like subconsciously, you're just like, oh, cool. I've got permission. You've given yourself permission. And some people are like, that sounds crazy, but others are like, all right, I'm going to try this. And it's made a world of difference to me.
100%. And I think it is really, it's really great to kind of make it your own space, because as you said, you have notes everywhere. Amy, you know, my wife, Amy, she actually on her thing has paper notes up on her laptops and around the room. And I'm like, do you want to use like, you know, maybe like an extra screen? She's like, nope, this is my process. This is great. I'm like, cool, awesome. And she owns that. And it's, what's really cool is like, yeah, you do have this space to do it. And that's why I like Elgato prompters, because it actually is that extra screen, but it doubles as you can put the zoom right on the lens. So you're looking directly into the camera and having that conversation. It's very important when it comes to connecting with your audience. So yeah, it's very helpful.
So the next big piece, I mean, there's a planning piece, right? So whether we're going to use a teleprompter, whether we're going to use little sticky notes under the camera lens, what is your process, or what would you recommend? Let's get both. What's your process now? But obviously you're pro at this, but then working back to what would you recommend someone's process be? And it could be testing stuff or whatever. What do you find works in terms of getting someone up to speed with this stuff? What should they maybe look at?
With presenting itself, or
so they've got the prep. The overall goal of the video is maybe down, but in terms of delivery and what they should use to, is it full script? Is it bullet points? To what sort of level?
Yeah, good question. I would say it to each his own, because you know, what will work for bullet points for some people will not work for me. For example, I always use full script. I always make sure that the businesses send me the exact script that they want. And there's a reason for that. I actually had a crazy experience with it. Early on in my presenting career, I actually thought, oh, okay, so you want like the best lighting. You want to make sure, okay, I got this on my, see, do you see my shadow? And I was like, okay, I got my key light. So you want like an energy, you want a tone. And the marketing team just looked at me and they go, we have worked really hard to get this messaging right for our audience. So we don't care, like obviously we care, but we don't care really how you look, we want it to be authentic. We want you to read the script, but also we worked really hard for these like SEO matched keywords on this blog that you're about to create. And I'm sure you can relate. And so for me, it was understanding that you as a presenter is just only not even half the battle of it all. Yes, you are like the element of getting it out there, but the message, the value you're bringing is so important to really why they are there, that it doesn't matter which medium that it's coming from. It just matters that they can take that information and trust that it's real. The presenter's job is to make sure that the trust is real and that we are validating what's going on, being that speaker. And so, yeah, the messaging is super important for me, that I now take these scripts in their full form and I will make sure that everything is kind of there in order. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So if you're using a full word for word script in that case where you're presenting on behalf of another company, you're making the video for them, are you
Correct.
are you reading through this a few times? What's your process look like? You're given a script, do you just drop it into your
Right.
teleprompter and you're like, good, we're good to go? Or is there like a warm-up
Yeah.
piece? Are you reading it through? What does that look like?
Now it's a setup and record. So now I'll actually I'll batch record. So I'll put everything into the prompter. I'll have it all set. I'll set it up, lighting on, mic test, cool, camera test, awesome. And I just make sure all my levels are good. I'll hop in front of, usually I'll do like the green screen stuff all together. So I'll have the green screen down, then I'll push that down, and then I can do the live studio stuff in case there's any different like live studio. For example, I'll have like my own personal YouTube stuff I just started. So I'm, training people how to be, kind of in on this. And now I'll have this kind of setup. So I can just tweak my lighting a little bit, but essentially I do this for my editor really. Is multiple takes is really tough for editors because they now get this thing of like, well, which one do you want me to use? I can definitely make a best guess here in terms of what it is, but often or not, I'll just send them one take, and it'll be, maybe if it's a short, I'll do it like a couple times, usually twice at the very most. But instead of doing the entire script in like repeat, go back up, I'll do my sections. And I'll make sure that each section is separate or it flows into the next. Whereas like if I end like here, I'll know that to go kind of back there and just start from that point, like, oh, I messed that up. Oh, and it just seems to flow really well. And I think there's more on this, that like your editor is your best friend or your worst enemy when it comes to the production side of things. So yeah, making sure that they are happy is very good.
Yeah, for sure. So that's your process for reading a full word for word script if someone is paying you for your services to produce a video for them. But you just touched on something. You've now got a YouTube channel launched fairly recently, which is awesome. Is your process exactly the same for that? Or like, are you writing a full word for word script, or you're on bullet points for that one because you know the content, right? Versus a company that you're presenting for. And I think there could be a mix in here in the audience. What's your process like for YouTube?
Yeah, it became actually a little bit of a struggle for me because essentially now I used to transfer thought leadership. So they would give me their input, they would give me their resources, they would let me like kind of peek into their world and essentially I become a team member of that business. And I love that because if I'm working with you, I'm intrinsically motivated. I actually love your business. Whereas I don't tend to work with clients anymore that like, I'm just not really a big fan of this or anything. So I actually am very interested in the content and I'm learning myself as we go. But when it came to creating my own thought leadership stuff, it was this weird thing where my scriptwriter's like, so where are the resources? And I'm like, up here. Like, how do I transfer? What do I do? And so, obviously using AI, we came up with like a lot of questions for these specific topics. And so there's this really elongated element in the script writing process or the keyword research that we're like, where are those missing points? What do people actually want to know about? And so I'm having to share this kind of information and really kind of feed it into AI, and it pops out a script and I go, that is a massive miss of a section. Let's go back. But my goal is still the same, to get that script 100% written so that I can still present it on key. But what I'm finding myself now is riffing. And I never do that for clients or anything, but I'm riffing off my own content because I get that spark of inspiration. And for me as a presenter, that's kind of exciting because like I've just never had that before. I've never been able to riff because I'm not the expert. Now I'm the expert, or at least to some extent, and yeah, it's fun. It's a cool process. It's different.
That's so awesome to hear because to me, they're like two totally different types of videos. If I was doing a sales video or something where I needed to hit specific words or phrases, or there's been a lot of like marketing thoughts, psychology, whatever put into a video, I am not going off the cuff because I've got squirrel brain worse than probably anyone you'll ever meet. And we talk about something like, oh, and this is how we started our channel. Those videos are still there where I would be listing pros and cons of something. And then I'd be like, oh, I forgot to mention, like those videos are frustrating to make. Yeah. Let alone the editor. I felt sorry for our editor. So we now do a mix. And I think this would be the piece for anyone test. If I had to sit there and write out a full word for word script for every one of our YouTube videos, I think it would take so much more time. But for some people, I totally get that could be the best way for you to make videos, because you might be I hate writing stuff. I hate writing emails. I use the voice to text thing because I don't know, it's a mental block that I have. So what we do, though, is I do use a teleprompter. I'm using the Elgato prompter, and we have the hook at the start with the keywords and everything dropped in. I'm reading word for word that piece, but then the rest of it, we have a structure, we have a flow that we teach inside of our accelerator program, how we hook people in first. We then have an intro, so a quick intro to the topic. We then get to the content. We have a bonus section, like an over deliver. Like, make sure you stick around because I'll also share this, whatever, with you. And then we have our call to action. So I have that as bullet points, and I'll put in a few key bits of information for that so that I don't want to be thinking in front of the camera. I don't want to be like, oh, shoot, how much is this in US dollars? And which plan is this? Should I need to recommend? So all of that key information I need to have down. This is my process now. I need to have the key information down, and then it's bullet points. And if I'm doing something like a review, then I'll put a plus. Like, I like this as a positive. Plus, easy to use. Minus or negative, needs a really fast computer to run, right? So I have all of that, and I don't need to be, oh, shit, I forgot this thing or whatever. So key information I'm writing down.
100%. And I think you hit the nail on the head with, like, it's going to be different for each person. You know, like, everyone's going to have their own, like, preference of that. I do have one strategy if we have time to share. I'm going to hand it over to our buddy Vin Giang, who's an effective communicator on YouTube. He's Australian as well. He uses something that is, I think, super effective for recording. It's called record and review. And essentially you take your 5 minutes, and you can try this out as both riffing, you know, like, or bullet points, or even fully scripted. And it's going to be so powerful to actually see and hear who you are. So essentially you record your 5 minutes and do it, you know, as you would, whether it's teleprompter or even a version where it's riffing. And you do 3 things. The first one is to simply turn off the volume. And so you go out and you just look at yourself, and you're just looking at how your stances are, where you're missing up. Are you just staring in the lens like a zombie? Like, you know, get those things that you're really react to those. The second thing is you put your phone down, but you turn up the volume. And so you're just activating your auditory area to make sure that, okay, am I coming across as this? Am I getting the points across? Is my message clear? Am I using diction? Can you actually understand that I am a presenter? And then the third thing is getting that script transcribed, transposed, I'm in music, transcribed. And what you want to do is include all the ums and the ahs and everything, all the crazy phonetics in there. And then you can see where those things are happening. So you say, okay, I've said 100 times in here, you know, as we probably do on some of our, you know, recordings. And it's just so helpful to do those 3 things, because what you're doing is, you know, yes, you're putting in the reps for practice, but you're actively learning more about yourself as a communicator when you do this. And it takes time. It's tough. It's hours, but it'll make the quickest way to being better on camera.
I absolutely love that. And I think you're always going to be your own worst critic.
Yep.
That's just the truth of it. And I think there's a lot of people that's a stopping block. But I don't like the way I sound. I still don't like the way I sound.
Yeah.
But you get used to it, right? It's something you can't change.
Yeah.
So the moment you can get over it, then you can go and share your message with the world, go have impact, build the life that you want. But don't let that be your stopping block, because it's something that's beyond your control. So I think if there's anything you can change, let's change it. But no one else is sitting there, I can't watch this. You're not used to hearing your own voice. I think that's the weird piece around it. So the more you do, the more you will get used to that, and know that it really doesn't matter. And also know that we're not for everyone. People have options on YouTube. Right. And I know that I'm in a competitive niche. There's lots of people that have very, very, very similar channels to ours, even covering the same topics. And you know what? It's not competition. We're friends with them.
Yeah.
And you might go to some of them for one type of video, others for another. You might absolutely hate me, but love them. It doesn't matter. If we know that we're not for everyone and we're just showing up and putting ourselves out there, pushing those comfort zones, then I mean, you can really build the life that you want off the back of helping people, which is amazing.
You really could. And we get in our mind about accents or, kind of wanting to, kind of whatever your own personal thing is. I used to hate my voice. And I think you hit the nail on the head that with practice, I don't mind it anymore, like because I'm putting in those reps to do it. But one of the worst things that people make is trying to replicate someone that they like. It's trying to replicate their tone and their style and their kind of presentation. When in reality, you are your own person. You lived your own life. And if you, are more of a softer personality on camera, it's beautiful. You're your own person. You have your own experiences. And the fact that you can share those in whatever light is going to be really helpful. But it's just about fine tuning those to hone into your own personal style. That'll make the real benefit on camera.
So I love that. And that was a perfect segue into the last piece that I wanted to cover. I know we're going way over time, but we will get to the Q&A. And I've been seeing them and trying to bring in some of these questions as we go through as well. Authenticity, right? You just touched on that. People want to watch and connect with people that are authentic on camera. And we want to be authentic on camera. But why is that so hard for people starting out? Is it that they're overthinking? Is it that they maybe look at some other people and say, I need to, this is how this person speaks, or maybe I need to try that. How do we be authentic on camera?
Well, it's the same. I think it's the same analogy as to why can't I just, hike up to Everest Base Camp right now? A 14-day hike up there. Well, the truth is I haven't trained for it. I haven't put in those reps to actually do my daily walks up and down, to try a short video, to try an explainer video, to try doing a YouTube vlog. It takes a lot of time. So the authenticity that comes with it you'll have to try out multiple things. One of those things for me is I have beautiful conversations with my wife. We talk about things daily. She's actually now getting in front of the camera and she is terrified. She does not want to do it. But it's allowing this safe space to communicate and just say, hey, I'm going to press record. You can have the space, you can do whatever. But she's putting in the reps now. And that'll pay off later on. She's now doing live speaking events. And that's only happened over the last 2 years. And she still gets really nervous. She's blown away by the fact that she can do it. She gets off stage and she was like, that was really fun. That was really cool to connect and to have this opportunity. And it's tough when it comes to video content because you don't get that satisfaction. You don't get that engagement right away. You're performing for a camera and perhaps you won't see the comments or the, hey, I really appreciated your thoughts on this. You won't see that for a while. So it's almost a delayed gratification for the work that you're putting in to go up the hill.
Yeah. And I think especially when you got, sorry, I thought I featured a comment. Especially when you're putting in the work to create something and there is that delayed gratification, especially on YouTube, right? We know that it could be 2 to 3 months before a video filters in some cases, into the search side of YouTube. So we have a very much search-focused strategy for YouTube growth that we're not hitting massive numbers day one, week one. We're also live streaming, totally new for us. Yeah. So you can see I think we have 52 people watching right now. Thanks, guys. But some people will look at that and go, well, given the size of the channel you've got, wouldn't you expect more? All of this it's a trained thing. It's delayed gratification. You need to train your audience, but also train yourself so that you're able to speak and you're creating stuff, knowing then that the impact will come afterwards. And it took me a while to really get that. Now, for me, the piece of making the videos isn't the piece that I get the joy out of. It's having the videos out there. So I'm happy to go through the process and whatever, knowing that the end goal is hopefully this video will help and impact someone, right? And I love this then environment for live stream because we can have that impact. Hopefully, this is impactful. We can have that faster, and it's a different experience, right? So this is where on places like YouTube, you don't need to be everywhere. You don't need to be doing all the things. Pick one or two. One is your main piece, which for us is the regular videos. Second one is like we're playing with shorts, but we're also now playing with this. And over time, you're going to learn so much. There was a question around practice. How do we get better? Right. I know that people go, oh, practice. I think it's one of Doug's questions as well. Like practice. I get that. But like, are there any other things that we can do? Or is really that at the crux of it? Is that we just got to get the runs on the board?
It really is. It really is the reps. It really is kind of, just getting out there and trying things. But I think, I used to learn how to play guitar, and I was really interested in playing guitar, but I just couldn't, I was just chord practice and all that. And I kind of assimilate that with video presenting, that like, it's tough. It's a new thing that you have to do. For me, it was actually playing songs that I love. And that was the game changer for actually learning that technique was, oh, I can play chords. Oh my gosh, that chord translates to this song. And oh my gosh, I can play this song now. Whoa, this is cool. And I eventually grew really fast. This just came to me now. But I think that doing content in a similar way of things that you like or things that you really enjoy, a good practice technique is to just press record with no intention of posting. Just actually vocalizing and sharing something that you like. Like if you're into cricket, and again, I'm not sure if there's American audiences here, but it's huge in Australia. Share about cricket, share about your time there. If you're into, crafts, just do arts and crafts and share about what you have. Bring pieces in. If you're into coffee, I'm like, oh, I've got this Toby's coffee and it's from Toby's estate. It's amazing. And you can just kind of riff.
Not sponsored.
No sponsored. Yeah, no sponsored. But just have some fun with like having on camera and doing this, what will be beneficial for you is just, putting in those reps, but putting in the reps in a fun way that keep you coming back for more.
The other piece to that we've touched on a lot throughout this that I needed to was going into things with a plan or an overview. We see people out there that they look like they just press record or just hit go live and they produce this amazing piece of content. They might be using a teleprompter. You don't know. They might have done this 20 times before. They could have been practicing for months for that or been doing it for years. So go into things with a plan. How do you set yourself up for success? So back with my live stream that failed that I mentioned towards the start of this, where I freaked out, no one showed up, there were no questions. From then on, I went in with questions. And I would say, oh, look, while we're waiting for questions to come in, there was a few that were sent in ahead of time. Look, they weren't sent in ahead of time. There were things that I knew that people wanted the answers to, but it gave me permission enough to push past the no one showed up for my live stream to go and create something that can, again, add value to the internet. So prep. Whenever I feel stressed or whenever I'm going to shoot something and I'm frustrated, it's taking longer than I should, it usually means for me, I haven't done as much or enough prep or as much prep as I should. Is that something that you're seeing with your channel now? Or are you just, no, Justin, you're completely wrong. I'm one in the 1%. I hit record and it's perfect every time.
No. Well, I mean, come on.
Those people do exist, but we all 100%. Aspire to be them. And And
it gives you like this thing where you're just like, really? You just hop in front and press record? Like, how do you do that? Man, I'll have to say, like, I completely agree with you in the sense of like, if I'm not feeling it, I'm gonna put it off. And yes, I have deadlines to meet for businesses and such, but like if I'm not feeling it, if I'm having a rough day, if I'm just feeling demotivated, there are things that I can go to feel better. And again, they all happen around mindfulness and they directly affect your presence and your communication. Go out on a run, eat something healthy, do a workout, all of these things that, you hear about in these things, they actually do help. They actually really kind of put you in that mentality where you come back with that energy and all that. And for me, music is kind of, it kind of links into my energy, my style, all that. So I actually used to, for acting, depending on the character I was doing for film, I would listen to that character's music to get in the mood of that person. And so, I'd be, kind of in this whole thing. One time long story short, I played a neo-Nazi. So I was listening to like some crazy music.
Oh, we just got demonetized. Thanks. Yeah.
and so yeah, it was just this crazy thing that like music really affects people, and so honing that into your presentation, I think, is very valid.
Yeah, I love that. And I can see we got a few comments. People like love the music suggestion because it's going to get you in the zone. I've heard people also recommend doing like 10 push-ups or 5 if that's all you can do, like get the blood flowing. I did definitely find it easier starting out standing versus sitting as well. But again, I think just try these things. So there was a piece for me of standing. The energy just came easier. Then I snapped my Achilles, and now I kind of whatever.
Gosh,
that's a whole nother. Did you not know about that? Oh, yeah.
No.
Anyway, I turned 40 and started falling apart. Yeah. So look, we keep coming back to done is better than perfect. You're going to learn as you go. That's really the crux here. But I love that piece of just hitting record. That's something that I've suggested to people as well. Is pretend like so you're in the car now. Don't distract yourself from driving, but you've got a commute to do or something, or you've got some home time alone. Document what you're doing. Get into the habit of saying, "Oh, I'm just on my way to here to do this thing." You'll not only get past the point of hearing your own voice and what it sounds like, and push past the I'm not enough or who am I to be doing this, if any of that's coming up for you. But you'll start to learn to articulate things, to string your sentences together better. Good time to stumble, Justin. So that when you are doing things like this, it becomes easier. It just becomes a conversation. Even with this, the framing for this, for Eric to come on, this is a casual chat. We don't need much prep. We have an overview. We have some bullet points of things that we want to cover, but it's super casual. Yeah. Right? Takes the pressure off, makes it fun.
100%. And one thing to add to that I just kind of started doing recently, in fact, I did it on the car ride home. I've now programmed ChatGPT with the voice module so that now I can have conversations with them and practice my speech. But at the same time, ChatGPT is also asking me for my expertise. So I'm killing two birds with one stone, where they're actually getting into the insights. And I allow ChatGPT, I'm like, look, let's get to the nitty gritty of like, where am I providing so much value? Like, where is this thing? What are real questions going on in the world that people want to know about when it comes to video presenting or, video marketing in general? And so I'm having beautiful conversations with ChatGPT, but you can also program yourself to say, hey, can you really challenge me on not necessarily my looks or feels, but how my vocals are? Am I saying too much? And then it can actually train you. It can run you through a practice of like, here, try saying this sentence, try saying this paragraph, And I don't know, there's something there that like can really be helpful with the conversational element that you're talking about.
That is so awesome. I haven't even thought of that. So I did play with, what's the built-in app? Clipchamp on Windows, right? It's also, you can use it on Mac too. There's a tool called Clipchamp, and it's kind of replaced Windows Movie Maker. So that actually has presentation feedback through AI as well, built into it. So you do a screen recording, you talk to camera, and it's going to critique your energy levels. It's going to critique what you've said, how many times you said whatever. That's built into Clipchamp, and there's a free version on Windows. I think there's a free online version of it as well. But I love the idea of having it as a conversation with ChatGPT or one of those other ones where you can say, I'm practicing to present on camera to get better. These are the topics that I'm going to cover on my YouTube channel. Yeah. Ask me a question. I'll present it as if it's a video, but it's obviously ad hoc. And that's the piece I love about this. This is so cool.
Yeah. And even deeper kind of, yeah. And even deeper into that element is like, we've actually, when it comes to the script writing and making sure that, we use AI to kind of feed the research and make sure that it's in there. And shout out to Justin's brother for helping with MindPal. MindPal kind of like organizes our stuff. He kind of told me about the platform, but I've actually had ChatGPT interview me about two things: my life story, or I think it was Claude actually, my life story, and also my professional expertise in my career. So that it allows me to say, like, these are my interests as a person. This is my life story. can you use this, to like help people relate to it? And it's just, I'm finding that people are like, whoa, yeah, me too. This is fantastic. And it helps write those scripts so much more personalized to who you are. AI is
Yeah.
scary, man. It's so scary.
And this is just early days for AI,
Yeah.
right? So that's such a good use case. I didn't even think of that. And then the flow on from that is you could then say, based on that conversation, help me write a script for
Yep.
this video,
100%.
right? Because it's
100%.
already got what you want to say. It's got your voice, tonality, everything's already in there. That could be really good. All
Absolutely.
right, so we have a bunch of questions that have come through. We might need to go through some. I know some of them we've already touched on these topics and things as well. I'm going to sort them here so I can view them from when they were first come in. And my apologies if I miss your question. You can see me looking all over the place trying to curate these. Okay, so if I switch the view here, we should be able to bring these up on screen. Getting fancy. Okay. This one's from Doug. It seems to me that having a run of show, script, or extensive bullet points that help him. So he does like a podcast, creates long form content, interviews people. Awesome. What resources do you recommend for helping create run of shows, scripts, extensive bullet points to guide your presentations? Is there any tools and things that you specifically use, or are you like a Google Doc, just going to smash it out?
I'm more of a Google Doc. That's a good question. Extensive bullet points. I mean, really, again, it goes back to like to each his own. Whatever works for some person might not. I know having kind of the windows separate, so you have like your presentation on this side of the screen, whereas like you have your notes on this side, and you can scroll up and down. Elgato Prompter is a good one for that because you can have both the look and feel of it as well as your notes to the side or your teleprompter that you're reading from. God, we have promoted Elgato a lot on this thing. Yeah, I'm waiting for my kickback.
I'm using one now.
So yeah, honestly, like a tool like that would be great, just because it goes back to the eye contact. You're looking into the camera, and then you have that. That's the only one I can actually think of for some reason.
Yeah, I think as you said, it's find whatever works for you. For me, I'm a Google Doc. Then I'll put the key points into the teleprompter app. The app that I found the best isn't the one that comes with the Elgato prompter. I'm using Teleprompter Premium. There is a free version of it, even though it's called Premium. Yeah, I use that one as well. Awesome. All right, so I have it on my phone.
No, I'm Prompt Smart Plus now.
Okay, so that's the one that does the voice tracking. That one's really good as well. Yeah. Which Elgato has too. So I know that Doug had a question around how do we, if you're using a teleprompter, how do you keep the text in line? Do you use the voice tracking thing, whereas listening to what you're saying and auto scrolls for you? Do you use that?
I do, and it was an actual game changer because I had one client send me. It was a 3,000 word script,
just a little one.
There was 4 of them. And I remember I like just moved to Tokyo. I had this crazy setup with my green screen and all this, and I pressed play, but all I had was the slow moving track. So I had to do 30 minutes of like this content. It ended up being an hour long for each one of these things because I had to keep going back and like I'm presenting here and I'd roll up and I'd be like scroll. We go back here. It was very frustrating. The voice track is a game changer, but I know that accents are quite tough on that. I have a Scottish friend. He's like, proper won't understand my accent, and I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, it's not trained.
I don't blame the teleprompter in that case. Scottish is really so hard for me to understand. Yeah. Okay. So did I mention? Sorry, with that last one, I know people that use PowerPoint or Keynote slides, and they kind of just flick through the slides as if they're doing an on-stage presentation. So that could be another option as well. This one is another one that keeps coming up a lot. It was around authenticity. I know that we did cover this a bit in here, but what things do you think would help you be more authentic on camera when you're presenting?
It depends on the content. It depends on what you're doing. But I would say if it's your own content, if you're developing your own personal brand, owning your space is just being comfortable in your space. Bring in props, like, oh, this thing that we want to highlight or this thing, it's just being comfortable in your space to just be a real human and a real person. I try to mold that into business content as well. But I think, just at the end of the day, showing up, pressing record, and just having fun with it as best as you can is that's authentic.
So I like the framing again for this, and we apply it to so much stuff. It's another one from James Wedmore. James Wedmore, Elgato, whatever your Tim Adams coffee or whatever you had there before.
Toby. Oh gosh, they're
Toby,
gonna be
Toby's
so
Estate.
upset.
Oh my gosh,
Toby's estate.
I picked the wrong brand.
You're fired.
Yeah, now I've totally lost what I was saying. Oh no, what would it look like if it was fun and easy, right?
Yeah.
If you're scared, you're not taking action, there's too many things that are coming up for you, just run that little exercise. If this was fun and easy, what would it look like? Well, maybe I wouldn't have a full script. Cool, let's try bullet points. I think that's something that I keep whenever I feel stuck. I try to remember what would it look like if it was fun and easy. Another one on the authentic side as well. Actually, just before we get to this one, there is a piece here of being authentic. I'd say presenting or acting, like sharing on screen, because to some people it's a foreign thing, and it's to me, I have to remember that I am speaking to a real person, and I try to put it in that context of how would I show up if I was having this conversation with someone, if they were here in the room with me. I never used to talk with my hands as much, but I now find that it makes a more engaging video. I'm now doing this more like, what am I doing with my hands? Anchorman. I now find it's more natural, but it's also relaxing, and it allows me to do things like if I say, "Oh, there's 3 things you need to remember." It makes it more engaging for the viewer, but it's I'm moving. I'm not just there sitting there looking at a teleprompter. I'm treating it more like a conversation, and I'm looking around. Even if I have a full word for word script, I'm looking around. And not that we don't want to make like if you had a conversation with someone in person and you just sat there and just looked at them the whole time, it's weird, right? So in real life, what do? We're looking around, and so I would do a quick read through of my script first, if I'm going to use a full script, and I'm going to look for lists where I'm listing stuff out. And when I get to that part in the script, I already know what they are because I can see the head in the script, what the things are I'm going to say. So if it's like bread, milk, and lasagna, I don't know where do those three things came from. I was like, so the 3 things you need are bread, milk, and lasagna. It looks like I'm just pulling them out of the air. I'm thinking about them, but I've actually read ahead a little bit in the script, but I'm making it more engaging. Is that the kind of stuff that you're doing as well? I feel weird that I overthink this stuff, but it's definitely helped me create stuff that is more engaging and having the permission to look around, because we'd never just have direct eye contact with someone.
I think you're spot on, because you're putting yourself in the mind of the viewer. Is how is that viewer going to take in the information? So if I'm saying, and that's why we need we need bread, we need milk, we need butter, and you just start kind of having these thought processes where like I know my script, but I think it's beautiful. Like if you're starting out, or even if you're getting to this point, allow yourself to. I do what's called like a 3-step. Is like if I don't actually read my scripts beforehand. I forgot to mention this. I don't read my scripts. When they get in there, they're ready to go for business. They're ready to go for me. I have my script writer who checks it just to make sure that like it flows, the messaging is simple, all that. And I need to correct myself here. I check it in terms of like making sure the content is good, but I don't read the script before I actually present. So when I'm presenting and I press record, it's the first time I'm seeing it. And I allow myself 3 times. 1, I'm just going to say it. And if it doesn't hit, I'm going to go back and I'm going to do that sentence or paragraph again. 2 is I'm going to really kind of give it a little bit of a dynamic flair. And 3, I'm going to have fun with it. So that by the time Kate, my editor, gets to it, she goes, well, 1 was great. Like you just skipped right through, or 2 was really, really great. She'll always take the last one, which is always the best one, because you know how that flows. And I think Descript can really help you out with that, getting that last take. Is that right?
Yeah. So Descript is now what we're using to record all of our content in. The AI functionality is crazy, but even it'll remove all your bad takes, mistakes, ahs, so's. It picks, even I don't know how it does this, but it's almost like it looks at the energy level that you brought into a sentence, and it'll even cut sentences in half if you're doing retakes. So it makes better edits decisions than I would if I was sitting there doing it. So I work in chunks. Yeah.
Okay. I see. I'll do the same thing now. I think Descript's been on my docket to look at, just to hand over to my editors, because it saves them like probably a good 30 minutes of like editing my YouTube content, because I do only submit one take. And
Hmm.
most of the time it goes through pretty good, but I'll do a couple takes of some certain sections. So
Yeah.
to give TS here a little thing,
Yes.
it
Right.
makes sense with the keywords, because you're trying to hit that algorithm or hit the right keywords that are, position you as a better portion. I actually really love Justin's thing here, and we might take that into effect. You got your title, you got your thumbnail, you got your intro. Those are like some of the top things when it comes to making sure that these people, the viewers, want to, they want to watch the content, but they don't want to miss out on the content itself. So if you can get yourself to a place where you're trying that to read that script in a fun way, and maybe even try the 3-step rule in getting those keywords across and all that. And then once you get further down into the script, you can even have more of a conversation.
Yeah, so when we're planning this, I know the primary keyword phrase that we're optimizing for, that we want to show up for. If someone searched for that, this is a perfect fit for this video. I want to be saying that word for word. I don't want to be going off the cuff or squirrel brain and messing the words around.
Yeah.
So that's the piece that I'm putting into the teleprompter, and I'm
Yeah.
writing that ahead of time. So it's then, how do we make that sound good for the viewer? Like, what
Yeah.
words do we say before that? Like, are you looking for the best video editing software on Mac right now? But I'm saying it in a way that it's trying to be conversational or a fit for the viewer, not just dumping in keywords that just don't sound right. So we have to word them in a way where if we can include them, we should. It definitely does help getting into the search side of YouTube, but it also helps from the viewer side, because they hear that like, oh, good, this is exactly what this video is about. And hey, that's even exactly what I just typed in or what I just searched for. So it becomes a fit for them as well, so they feel more comfortable. So that's how I'm kind of balancing that. But for the rest of it, now for most of the videos, I'm bullet points after that first, the hook.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think your editor can take care of, the awkwardness of it all. If you do it just a few times, it's just getting it out there, just having some fun. And the more that you see yourself, you'll post, but the more you see yourself back, you'll be like, oh, I can definitely do better in terms of, it's all that record and review.
That's it. Eric's not using, oh, this is a tech question. Eric's not using earphones, yet I'm not hearing any echo. What is he using instead of earbuds? You don't have anything in your ears now, do you?
I don't. No. Justin gave me a little tip right before here. There's a video element that has noise reduction. So I click that and it seems to be doing okay.
I think it's true. The microphone that you're using picks up primarily only like close to where you're standing, like in front of it, and it's going to pick up minimal noise behind. But we're using EV Mux now for this, and the echo cancellation or whatever, it seems to be working really well. I'm just wearing these from.
We have a cover on this as well too, so it could be kind of canceling the noise that's coming from behind it as well too. It's a good question.
Yeah, I didn't want to risk it, but we tested it first. As in, I didn't want to risk it, both of us doing that. But yeah, the AI technology and this stuff now for noise canceling and removing the echo is really good. Okay, we'll take a few more. I know that we've hit top of the hour. Hopefully this has been beneficial for you guys so far. And Eric, super grateful for your time. We'll take a couple more if that's all good, and then we'll wrap this up. Yeah, awesome. Okay. What about hand movement? I'm finding it really helpful. Is there a right or wrong way to do hand movements?
I think
there's probably a few like gestures you don't want to do with your hands for things.
I would say like if it's helpful, then I would say keep doing it. And again, you're going to have about 1 million viewers, right? 1 million people, Doug, who are watching you, and you're going to have 1,000,001 opinions. Everybody's going to want their own preference of presenting, or like I've been moving like this a lot, and that's just in my own subconscious. But I'm in my element. Like I love doing that, and I love using my hand gestures. I'll punch over here. I don't know. The more comfortable you are, the more it's tough to get in our heads about what it is, but I think whatever helps you, then hone into it, because again, that's you. That is your element of comfortability.
Yeah, I think that's something. Maybe I'd always kind of talked a bit in person with someone with my hands, but I did it was something I was aware of. Look, as you said, the YouTube comments, people are like, why are you moving your hands so much? And others are like, it's weird that you're not moving your hands. So you can't please everyone. But I would say that if you are going to be moving your hands, and this is from personal experience, make sure that they're in shot, because I've definitely had ones where I've, like, before we had the desk, I'm like, you see me looking around, and I'm talking, and they're like, what's he doing with his hands? So I'm talking with my hands, but no one could see them. And it looked really, really weird. But until someone called that out, I'm like, okay, cool, let's go a little wider. And produce videos that way. So it's about you being comfortable. And I think it is the same as the speaking a little bit louder and bring a bit more energy into what you're saying. If you just dial it up a little bit and see what it looks like. But it's almost like this stuff gets lost a little bit, and it might feel a little silly to be talking with your hands and things. But they say that showing your hands and showing the palms of your hands is a big trust thing. Like, oh, I've got nothing to hide.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of psychology in showing your hands. And if they're closed off hands and people can't see your palms, then there's less trust there as well. So from a psychological point of view, if we're talking with our hands, we're showing our hands, there's 5 things you need to know. Those kinds of things can really help build that know, like, and trust with you as well.
You bring up a great point, because like, even if you're like this, Doug, even if you're like this is actually a psychological closed off mentality where you're, positioning yourself, or, you're kind of giving this way, and your hand gestures of opening it up, it allows someone to come in. So you're actually feeling this. The hand gestures really make a good point here. But what I wanted to say about it is at the end of the day, there's no rules and regulations about how you present. And there used to be this whole, thing right here. I think I can get it. You have your things in front, and it absolutely cracks me up. There's other spokespeople on, like, Fiverr, Upwork, and they're here and they're like, hello, welcome to Primal Video. And that was just the way to present a long time ago. And it's just not how people interact with anybody anymore. So the fact that people are still doing this, even news segments, like they're like, they're still in this thing because it's been respectable for so long to have this specific area of presenting. So we get into our own way about it. But when you're educating people, when you're talking about Doug Piper and you're being your own person, you can have your own way, man. You can do it outside. There's really no rules and regulations.
Yeah, and I think you'll find examples of both, but I'm the same as you. Whenever I see someone on the news that's presenting like this person's been media trained. They're not speaking to an audience, they're presenting at an audience. They're speaking at an audience is how I read that. And obviously, we're probably looking into this too much, but it's just whatever's comfortable. And I guess even filming yourself, this is a weird one, but film yourself as having a conversation with someone. Let them know that you're recording, and just see what your mannerisms are. If you do speak with your hands or whatever, get used to seeing you on camera in a natural environment. For me, I watched back the recording of how I presented on stage, and I was talking with my hands a lot. I'm like, okay, wow, I really do that a lot. How do I then create enough space so I'm not knocking stuff over? And for me, that's why I have a microphone up high and not on the desk, because I know now I speak with my hands and I would knock the microphone. So likewise, we can evolve over time.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay, when you do interview style, similar to this, how do you avoid looking at your screen partner instead of the lens?
How do I avoid looking at your screen partner? I've been looking at you.
Where are you looking right now? Am I on your teleprompter?
You're just below. So this is actually kind of cool to highlight is I've got my camera set up. I got my Elgato right there. So I could have used down the lens. However, I decided not to. I decided to give it more. So this is kind of the setup that it would normally be. Obviously, you can tell the lighting's a little bit better. And I have my boom microphone. It's actually on this side right here. I've put it out of shot. But it's just, I don't know. I have a better connection right now just to look. Yeah, I probably should have got it on Elgato, to be honest. There's another promotion.
Yeah. So this isn't the setup that I would normally use for this. Normally I would have, so I've got the teleprompter here, obviously in front of my main camera, but you'll see me, I'm looking down here. This is where Eric is, and this is where I'm making sure everything is all good. I normally would try to have that on the teleprompter. This teleprompter is good, but is not perfect. So if I bought this whole browser window for this tool that we're using, EVMux, on there, then everything becomes really small and I can't see the comments. So there is a point of usability, functionality, more so than what's going to look the best. I think in terms of this, I'm happy to. I know it's not, I'm a lot of the times I'm looking up and down between the two, but hopefully the content is still good, right? So I don't think they need to be perfect. I'm giving you permission to build the workflow here of what works best for you. How do you avoid looking at your screen partner instead of the lens? This is where it's the same as people when they're shooting videos with the front-facing camera on their phone, right? We're always drawn to look at ourselves. Correct. It's crazy how much we want to look at ourselves. And if you're actually aware of that on a Zoom call, where you're looking, you'll probably find, they ran studies on this and looked at the hotspots. Most people look at themselves.
Yes. Yeah, right? True. Yeah.
So if that's the case and you're going to keep, that ahead of time, then if you can on the Zoom call or live stream, whatever it is, try to position your thing up near the camera or webcam, whatever you're using, so that as you keep doing that, you're checking that you still look good, everything's in shot, whatever, there's not a problem. We're going to keep doing that. So make sure that your shot is actually the one that's near the camera instead of your guest. And it will actually end up as a better product for people.
Yeah. And I like that, again, we're all humans. So like, especially on interview style, this is the fun part where you can goof around and, just show your true personality. If you're like one of those people who like fumble microphones, you're like,
that's me. That's me.
Definitely Justin. Have some fun with it. Like take a sip of water. Have a delicious sip of coffee from Toby's estate. I don't know.
So I've had people say how unprofessional it is for me to be drinking water. I even topped it up in the middle of it, or there was someone comment on a video that I saw of someone's interview, and the guy started coughing halfway through. I had to sneeze, and there was someone commented, "Oh, that's so unprofessional." Well, what are they going to do? They're live. So this is part of being human. To me, those are the bits that make it real. So we're not going to please everyone. Do the best you can. Don't overthink it. Don't worry about that stuff. I know that if I drink water, I'm not going to lose my voice as quick, and it'll be a better piece of content. And I'm thirsty. Yeah. So I'm going to drink water. So I think we're not going to please everyone. And this is where there's a point of the comments, especially on places like here on YouTube, you're giving people a voice, and some of them probably shouldn't have one, right? Yeah. So we don't need to please everyone.
I think that's
okay. We'll take a couple more.
At the end of the day, we are presenting, we are having an interview, but at the end, most importantly, we're human. And I think that's spot on.
Okay, your concept reminder is done is better than perfect. What's your rule of thumb for knowing when you've recorded the presentation enough times? So, I mean, Eric shared that he does his 3 times. For me, I'm an editor first. I was editing for years before I got in front of the camera. So there was a big piece of unlearning because I would overshoot and I'd do things like 5 times, but then I'd know that that's 5 times the amount of footage then that we had to edit down. So for me and what I share, because we've just heard Eric's process, I will aim to go through it once, but if I need to redo something, if I'm not happy with the energy or I mess something up, then I'll redo that paragraph or whatever it is again. I won't start from the start. I'll just redo that section. So I'm working in chunks. And then our editors are just tying it all together. But there was a piece too of I will only move on to the next take, the next sentence, the next paragraph when I'm happy with the last one. So the last one is always the one that I want our editors to use. So that way they don't have to chop stuff in half. Now, I would approach that different. If I was doing what Eric is doing and presenting for other people, then I would want our editors to go through and pick the one with the best energy, the one that sounded the best, not just use the last one by default. But on YouTube, people are watching stuff for free. They go to YouTube for free shit. They're learning for free. So I don't need them to go to that level, which is going to blow out editing times. So we have a template when I'm essentially editing while I'm shooting, knowing that the last take is the one that our editors are going to use, except the only thing that changes with this now that we touched on was using AI to edit, is that sometimes it'll pick the earlier one. And I'm like, wow, this works. This is good.
That was better. Yeah. And it's, I think a great thing on this, Doug, is from relating with working with businesses, I love working with these marketing teams, and they're all different. They're all like kind of, have their own stuff. But often, if you've ever worked with marketers, you know that they'll put up a script and then they'll be like, oh, but no, we want to tweak this out. So you'll finish it. And then they're like, oh, but we need to add in this element, or we need to tweak this messaging so that it matches this. And I always go in with a voiceover to replay those things. I'll be in the same space so that the audio is the same, the matches in, but they can cut to maybe a full visual of a slide or some sort of animation or something to fill in that gaps or tweak out that line that we may have missed. So if you can get through that presentation, as Justin has said beautifully, like try to get it in one take, 2, 3 at the most, but you're just getting it enough that you can actually present that, get it forward. Again, different than live, but enough where your editor can go in and say, hey, that line was really horrible. Let's go out and tweak it. Cool. We'll do a voiceover in the same area and do it a little bit more presentable. So it just saves a little time and energy for me personally.
Yeah, love it. And this is where, even with some of the AI tools now, there was something I did recently and the pricing changed.
Yes.
So instead of me needing to redo something in Descript, I just put that in the chat there. It analyzes your voice. And I could just type in the new thing and it said it and it matched the tonality of what I was saying in the rest of the sentence. Oh, yeah. I think it's limited to like 3 words. Because it's really, or 5 words, or it's relatively short. Now, there's other tools where you could train your voice on it, like 11 Labs, I think is my top pick for that right now. But if it's just a short 1 or 2 word change, like a pricing change or something like that, then Descript is what we use for that. And look, it used to just kind of replicate your voice, but now it takes into consideration the words and everything. And even if there was background noise or any hissing from the microphone, it adds all of that in so that it is like a perfect fit.
Oh, that's massive. I'm going to take that tip because that's something we've been looking forward to doing, is just filling it in. And audio match, and audio, again, is the most important thing when it comes to kind of your thing. It's not the presentation, but making sure that your message is clear. That's a great tip, man. I'm going to take that.
Well, this is the stuff I geek out on this stuff. I'm like, cool. How do we help people make videos easier? That's really at the crux of it. Okay, we've got a couple more questions here and we'll wrap. Wow, we're going way over. When you do an interview style or a live stream similar to this one, how do you avoid looking at your guest screen? I think this is a very similar question. Instead of the camera lens, it's hard to ignore their image. Yeah. So I think pretty sure we did address this. Is there anything more that you want to add to this one?
No,
I think with this kind of environment, I mean, like you obviously see when I'm reading the things, I'm looking down. I'm not looking at you guys up here. So I really don't think it's a problem. Move stuff around to get the best you can, but you could also call it out at the start, as we said earlier, that this is what you're doing. I'd love some tips on learning how to gesture and be animated to make the visual aspect of the video more engaging, more than just a person talking.
Yeah. I would leave this up to your editor. I think the beauty of like a talking head is trying to use your dynamics of you presenting, but you can kind of just simple 3 ones is like you presenting just by yourself on a screen, or their editor can put you on the side and have like a slide over here of like the animations that you want to address or the visual. About 65% of us are visual learners. So we want to see what's being said as well. Or the third one is just having the slide over the full thing. And maybe you're like in the Zoom area where you're like in the bottom portions of this part, with the slide. So there's many variations that your editor can use to make it more engaging, or as Justin beautifully put in Primal, you call it retention editing, right? Just to kind of keep that dynamics going. And so, I would say the editor is key for that. Otherwise, yes, we tend to kind of zone out when it's just someone talking. There's some Zoom elements as well that you can play around with, but
yeah, I think for me, look, our editors make our videos interesting. If there is an element, look, there's so many different types of content you could be making out there, right? For me, I'm just talking head. So we literally have in our job description for our video editors, your job is to make me look good, and you have your work cut out for you. So this is why we use things like stock footage. So we use story blocks for that to show what I'm saying. We'll use screen recordings. We are now using a second camera as well, so that if I'm just talking for too long, they could just switch to a different camera to break that up. So if you've got a different phone or webcam, whatever, a top-down shot, what are the things that you could do to if we took a step back and said, this is the video you want to make, right? You've got the topic down. what would make this a win for the viewer? If for them to really grasp and understand this concept, what would be the best case scenario? And you might not always be able to do that. Like, oh, let's go higher, this massive green screen or something, right? So we could rule that out, maybe. But then what would be the second best thing? And we get to a point where something like, oh, actually, that could be really easy. Maybe I will draw things out, or I'll get a whiteboard. So be open to trying these things. But for me, I look at how do I share the information piece the best I can, so in the most fluid way, and then whether that's sharing my screen, whether I'm just talking, and then in editing, we'll do the things that Eric said, bring up the text, bring up the key points. That's all done afterwards. So it really comes down to the content.
Yeah,
cool.
That actually reminds me, just real quick on that, is there's a guy called John Pemberthy. He's I think he's an ad content specialist, but he has a massive whiteboard behind him. And he draws, kind of on that and uses those slides. So it's actually like an educational element to it. He's like really like showing you how it works. And he goes back and forth. Like he'll be back here and then he'll like move forward and he's mic'd up. So he can have that energy and move around. So there's many ways I think, play around as a presenter. Ooh, hello.
We just got a bit bigger. Okay, so those are the questions that I flagged. There is 2 others, and then we will wrap this up here. Cool. I don't have them flagged, so I can't find them in the chat here. I'd love some tips on learning how to... Oh, wait, that was the one we just did. What is your perspective on taking... Oh, sorry. It's really small font. What is your perspective on talking as though you're talking to a loved one who already knows, likes, and trusts us?
Whoa.
So if you're thinking about that instead of like a client is that something that you do or would recommend?
Who already knows, likes, and trusts us. That's beautiful. I can't say that I've ever had to... the immediate thing that comes to mind is if you wanted to practice that is practice with a loved one, practice with your family, practice with someone to have those conversations and just record them. And obviously not the intent of posting it, but just having conversations with them over a Zoom, or even in person, it's just kind of allowing you to have that space. But no, I can't say that I've ever had that. How about you?
Yeah, so it is a tip that we have given people. I think it comes down to the content that you're creating. Right? To me now, instead of thinking of a loved one or someone that knows, likes, and trusts me, which is a great place to start to help you get comfortable. If we look at who would your ideal viewer be, it might not be a loved one. It might not be a friend or family member. They might not be interested. I know, my wife doesn't even really know what I do for a job. So I wouldn't picture that I'm explaining or maybe I could for some of these things. So it really comes down to, I think, the context of who your ideal audience would be. And so if you already have a business and you're working with clients, then I like the idea of let's put your ideal client there. And it could be someone made up, or it could be someone, and I'm talking they don't need to be there, but let's picture they're there. Let's put a picture or something there, or just think that that's who you're speaking to in the video. Again, if we can speak to one person instead of everyone, it'll be easier for you, less pressure speaking to one person, but also it's a better video on the other end. For me, I switch off a bit when people are like, hey guys, how are you all going? Like, we're speaking to a lot of people, but there's only me. I'm watching this. Like, how do we create that experience where you feel like this video was made for you? So that would be my approach of that. So for sure, if your type of content is family driven stuff, whatever, or this is really what's going to help get you comfortable so that you can produce content, think of whoever you need to be in that position.
Yeah. Awesome.
So thank you. It's all about how I can get comfortable talking to camera and thinking they already know, like, and trust is an idea. Yeah. So the only thing I'd throw with that too then is it's likely your new viewers don't know, like, and trust you yet. So would you change anything? Like, if you just met someone for the first time, we're not going to assume that they know, like, and trust you. So we might be saying some things to give a little bit of credibility, a little bit of backstory, introducing yourself. Those elements you could actually bring into your video so your viewers then do know, like, and trust you by the end of the video. So I'd probably almost like reframe that a little, because it's an interesting stat. 96% of our views come from people who aren't subscribed to our channel. So there's a very, very, very high chance they're finding us for the first time. So I'm not going deep into an intro, but I'm also not referring to stuff that they wouldn't have seen yet. Oh, in last week's video, like we could lose people at that point. I didn't see last week's video. Now I feel behind. Should I watch last week's video before watching this one? It's like who starts a Netflix series at season or episode 3? Well,
that
really,
actually
because I've
makes
missed
me
the first,
cringy.
right? Yeah. So I make each video self-encompassing. You've chosen to be on this video. Who cares about what we did last week or whatever else? You're on this one. I'm going to help you with this thing that is the topic or the promise of the video.
And the beauty
that
of
might
what
help
you guys, and the beauty of what you guys do in that end screen as well is like, if you like this video, and that the logical next step are these two, kind of pointing. So yeah, I think it's people going back kind of to the last one is like the vulnerability that you share on screen. That's why people kind of rallied around, people are lonely, or they're bored, or they just want to be a part of something like a community. And so on YouTube specifically, people will join this to be like, yeah, I can relate. That's awesome. So whether you're talking about familial stuff or very specific, deep personal, they'll relate to you regardless of who you are or what you're presenting, just because you're sharing a very poignant thing in their personal life that relates to your content. So yeah, I think that's spot on.
Well, Eric, really appreciate your time. Thank you very much for showing here, helping, adding value to the internet. Hopefully this was beneficial to you guys. I just love geeking out with Eric. Yeah, and where can people find out more about you? Obviously, you got a YouTube channel now too.
I got a YouTube channel. Yep, it's developing. The title we're playing around with, so I'm not even going to share the title. But if you go to the spokesman.co, no, I honestly it's right now it's video content for business, like under my name, Eric Presnall, video content for business.
Nice.
Might change to spokesman, might change to video rep. I do not know.
I'm sure if it's video content for business, there's audience overlap, and I'm sure the value that you've provided here today, anyone that's interested can now go and find that. I'll put it in the description after this as well. I
might call it the Primal video, but like these like capitalized.
Oh, right, like the official one. Yeah,
like the Primal video.
Yeah, nice, awesome. Do it.
And all my content.
Gotta go find the trademark thing that we have here. So yeah.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. I hope you guys have some fun with this. That's great.
Yeah, and thank you guys for showing up live and for playing full out. And we will see you on the next one. Cheers.